Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and good day to all of our beloved viewers to the Voice of the Cape's YouTube and Facebook page. My name is Amir Adams and it gives me great honor and privilege to be able to interact with all of you who are preparing for your upcoming NSC examinations. Of course, this is the Voice of the Cape's annual Matric revision program. And of course, this year, for the year 2024, this program is proudly being sponsored by the Two Oceans Graduate Institute. This is an institute which is an accredited online platform where you can become a high school teacher or a primary school teacher by studying in the privacy of your own home. If you'd like to find out more information pertaining to this year's official sponsor of the Voice of the Cape's Matric Revision Program for 2024, you may visit the Two Oceans Graduate Institute, which is, of course, our main sponsor for this year, on their website www.togi.ac.za, or you may call them on 021 829 7015. For today, it gives me great honor and privilege to introduce you to our respected facilitator for today's Matric revision session, and that is none other than Mrs. Ni-shaat Dastagir, who is an English educator at the Mitchells Plain High School, and she will be going through content for English Paper 2. Let me repeat, English Paper 2, where she will specifically be dealing with Othello and the character list in particular. Without further ado, we hand over to Ms. Ni-shaat Dastagir to conduct today's session. All yours, ma'am.
Okay, thank Shukran Amir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all the listeners. Shukran for tuning in to today's session. I am Mrs. Ni-shaat Dastagir, and today I will be delving into the world of Shakespeare. And in particular, today we'll be dealing with Othello. We'll be dealing with the character list, and hopefully, inshallah, we'll be able to get onto the themes as well. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so our drama Othello, right, and for all the dramas in particular, there are some key facts that the learners need to know and understand, because it is Shakespeare and can be a little bit complicated, but alhamdulillah, we'll get through it. Okay, so some of the key facts that learners need to understand in Othello, you need to understand that the full title of the drama is the Tragedy of Othello, the Moor of Venice. The play was written in England in the year 1603, and it was first published in 1622. So the literary period is the Renaissance period, okay, and obviously the genre for this drama is a tragedy like most of Shakespeare's works. Okay, so the setting, okay, so we ultimately where all the events take place or happen is the cities of Venice and Cyprus. Okay, so the climax of the drama Othello is when Desdemona is killed by her husband Othello. We have our protagonist, which is Othello, and then we have the antagonist, who is Iago. So learners need to familiarize themselves with the terms like protagonist. Okay, so a protagonist is our so to say our hero in any piece of literary work, and then the antagonist would be the say the anti-hero, right? So the person that sort of presents a challenge to the main character. Okay, so in Othello, we have a list of characters, and up on the screen in front of you, you'll see a list of 13 characters. We'll note that we have what we refer to in literature as your main characters, and then we also have your minor characters. For today's lesson, I'll be focusing on all the characters, right? You'll see that there's Othello, Iago, Desdemona, Michael Cassio, Brabantio, Emilia, the Duke of Venice, Roderigo, Lodovico, Montana, Graziano, and the Clown. Okay, so first of all, we have our protagonist, right? And his name is Othello. Othello is a Christian Moor. Okay, so he has the reputation or a high reputation as a general in the Venetian army. Okay, he is married to Desdemona, and Desdemona is the daughter of the Venetian senator Brabantio. He is plain spoken, and Othello generally is the good guy, right, throughout the drama. Okay, you'll note that he has a very honest nature, and he has the status. He has acquired the status of the outsider. So, in other words, he's not part of Venetian society. He is vulnerable, right? In other words, he has some he lacks certain skills, or lacks self esteem in certain aspects of the novel, of the drama, sorry, to the plots of his standard bearer, which is Iago. So he is vulnerable because he falls prey to Iago's plots, okay, within the drama. And then we have Othello. And Othello also, he suspects his wife Desdemona of infidelity. So what infidelity basically means is he suspects that Desdemona is having an affair behind his back. Okay, here we have, and this is one of my favorite characters, right? And he's Iago. And I sort of chose that picture to show learners that Iago is basically the puppet master of this drama. Okay, he is also what we refer to as the antagonist within the drama. So Othello's disloyal standard bearer and the villain of the play. So he's angry at Iago and at Michael Cassio because he feels that he is part of the Venetian society and he is and what you can refer to as an insider. So he's angry at having been passed by over by Othello for the promotion to the ranks of lieutenant. So Othello overlooked Iago, right? And he promoted a different character to the ranks of his lieutenancy within the Venetian army. So he seems to enjoy creating mayhem for his own sake. So in other words, he likes to watch other people sort of go fall down under. So Iago develops a intricate conspiracy to ruin Othello. So ultimately, he wants to prove that he sort of wants to highlight Othello's insecurities, and it is ultimately that insecurities that ruin Othello. He is married to to Desdemona's, how can we say, chambermaid, and she is Amelia. So Iago and Emilia are husband and wife. Okay, so very innocent, Desdemona. Okay, um, Desdemona is Othello's wife, right? She is also the daughter of the Venetian senator Brabantio. Okay, so she elopes with Othello before the play even begins. Okay, so Desdemona is seen as a model wife. Right? She is too trusting of Iago. Okay, and Iago obviously has that character. She follows Othello to Cyprus because she's that much devoted to him. So she shows constant loyalty to her husband, Othello, even to the moment of her death. Okay, so remember, the climax of the drama is when Othello kills Desdemona. Okay, and even in that moment, she shows loyalty and devotion to her husband, which is Othello. Okay, so he's killed. So she's killed by Othello on false suspicions that she has been unfaithful to him, and that plot is put into place by the antagonist, which is Iago. There we have Michael Cassio. So Michael Cassio is your typical young man. Okay, he's young, he's charming, and he's a handsome soldier. He is promoted by Othello to the ranks of lieutenant over the more experienced Iago. So this is also what fueled Iago's plot right? Because he felt that he was more experienced than Iago. He had his plot involved sort of getting rid of Michael Cassio as well. So Cassio is loyal to Othello and friendly with Desdemona, and therein lies the problem. Okay, um, Cassio is trusting and is loyal, and his loyalty is towards Othello and the army of the Venetian army, and he's also friendly with Desdemona. In other words, they are friends. Okay, so he respects her, but he's also very loyal to Othello. So Cassio, he's seen as intelligent, and he's not cunning in any way. So in other words, there is nothing. He's not a character that can be seen as someone who is a menace, right? And he doesn't have any ill feelings towards anyone in the beginning of the drama. So he's easily ensnared by Iago because he's such an innocent, loyal young boy in a plot to convince Othello that Desdemona has cheated on him. So he's easily ensnared by Iago because of his innocence. Okay, there we have Brabantio. So Brabantio is Desdemona's father. He is also a senator in Venice. At first, enraged. Okay, so Brabantio is in first enraged by the fact that, or is angry at the fact that Desdemona and Othello are married. Okay, but later grants them a grudging blessing. So, in other words, at first he is angry at his daughter for eloping with Othello, but later on he does sort of give them a half-hearted blessing, for, to, so wishes them well on the road of marriage. Okay, his blessings never seems heartfelt. So if anybody understands the themes, right, and the characters and the Venetian society, you would understand why his blessing of the marriage is not really heartfelt. Okay, he dies of grief shortly after Othello and Desdemona's departure to Cyprus, and before any of the tragedies occur in the play. Okay, there we have Amelia. Okay, Amelia is Iago's wife. Okay, and unknowingly, she sort of also helps Iago's plot to this, is assisting Iago in his plot to destroy Othello. Okay, so she's Iago's wife. She's also Desdemona's friend and serving woman. In other words, she's a chambermaid or a maid. She less Emilia is less idealistic about marriage and the world in general. Okay, she is loyal to Desdemona, her mistress, but how loyal is she? And that's the question you need to ask yourself. She steals Desdemona's handkerchief for Iago, but does not know anything about Iago's plot at the time when she steals the handkerchief. When she does learn about Iago's plot, she tells all, and Iago kills her for exposing him and his devious plan. So, in other words, there's two tragedies now that learners need to take note of, right? So, that is first the tragedy of Othello killing his wife, who is Desdemona, and then the second tragedy is Iago killing his wife Emilia. Okay. There we have the Duke of Venice. He is the official authority in Venice. He has great respect for Othello as a military man. Okay, but does he really have respect for Othello as a man, right? Who is considered the outsider of the Venetian society? He does not betray. He does not betray any racial prejudice against Othello. Okay, so in the drama itself, we don't see him having any racial prejudice towards Othello at any time. He sends Othello to lead the Venetian mission to defend Cyprus against the Turks. Okay, there we have what we refer to in literature as our minor characters, and we'll see there's Rodrigo, and he's a long rejected suitor or admirer of Desdemona, and he was also the person or the man that Brabantio initially would have liked his daughter to get married to. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned, although he did try to seduce her, or get her to marry him by throwing jewels and stuff at her. And then we have a Bianca, and Bianca is a prostitute in Cyprus at the time, who expresses real feelings towards Michael Cassio. However, Michael Cassio mocks her for it. Then we have Lodovico, a relative of Brabantio. He acts as an emissary or bringing letters from Venice to Cyprus. So, in other words, Lodovico is a messenger boy. Okay, so he brings letters, he delivers the letters and stuff to Cyprus. Then we have Montana, the governor of Cyprus before Othello's time. Okay, then we also have Graziano, a kingsman of Brabantio who accompanies Lodovico from Venice to Cyprus. Then we have the clown, right? And this is ultimately Othello's fool or servant, right? So he's seen as a jester as well. So he provides entertainment, okay? And I want learners to take note of one aspect. So he only appears in two short scenes in the drama, but his riddling language reflects Othello's own language as the Moor descends into madness. So the clown is symbolic, right, of Othello's own language, right, as he descends into madness. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the themes. Okay, okay. It's important for learners to understand the themes and the characters because it helps you to write a good essay. Okay. So, in William Shakespeare, right, like all literary works, they are what we refer to as themes, right? So, themes are either short, so that only last for a maybe one act, right? And then we have also themes that last throughout the novel or drama. So, in the drama of Othello, we have five themes, right? And the so first learners need to understand what are themes. Okay. So by definition, a theme is a main idea or an underlining meaning of a literary work, which may be stated directly or indirectly in the play at some point. So, what we refer to as major and minor themes. A major theme is an idea that the writer repeats in his literary work, okay, making the most significant idea in the drama constant or throughout the drama. Okay, so in Othello, the drama of Othello specifically, it deals with prejudice, it deals with race. So those are constant themes throughout the drama. Then we have what we refer to as minor themes, and this refers to an idea that appears briefly in a drama, giving way to another minor theme. Okay, so like I said earlier on, it is brief, maybe only appears in one act, etc., etc. Okay. So how do you learners identify a theme or what a theme is? Okay. So sometimes the writer would express a theme through the feelings of the main character, okay, about the subject he has chosen to write about. Themes are presented through thoughts and conversations of different characters. So there are themes that come across in Iago's soliloquies. Okay, so learners need to also be familiar with how to identify those themes, right? And pay special attention to the soliloquies because that is where certain things are revealed. Okay. The experiences of the main character in the literary text also gives us an idea about its theme. The actions and events taking place in a narrative are consequential in determining the theme. Okay. So in Othello itself, right, we have five themes that the drama deals with or the play deals with. And the first one is prejudice. Then we have appearance versus reality. We also have jealousy, manhood and honor, womanhood and sexuality. Okay. So the first one here, prejudice. Okay. So the most prominent form of prejudice in Othello is racial prejudice. Okay. So in other words, you'll find that there's a lot of what we refer to, maybe we can call it jokes about Othello and the color of his skin. Okay. Because he's not white like most people in that society at the time. He is a darker skinned man. So referenced, and here I used a reference to Act 1, and where we have Rodrigo and Iago belittling Othello in obvious racial terms, referring to him as a Barbary horse and thick lips. So in other words, a Barbary horse is a black horse, right? And obviously he has thick lips. They're referring to his lips as well. So, in almost every case, the characters describe Othello as an animal or a beast, okay, and terms, right? So, that also highlights the racial prejudice that is happening in the drama. So another one is the characters almost always use direct language to define Othello as an outsider of the white Venetian society, but as being less human and therefore less deserving of respect, hence the references to animal or beasts. Okay. Then Othello also seems to have internalized his prejudice by describing himself in similar unflattering racial terms. So, in other words, he now internalizes what people says about him, right? And he refers to himself in the same manner, or he sort of his self-esteem drops, right? Because he thinks that everybody is saying this about him, so he sort of takes that in and he starts describing himself in those terms as well. So, after Desdemona's supposed unfaithfulness, Othello quickly turns into the unrational animal or monster that the white Phoenician society accuses him of being. Okay, there we have again prejudice continues. So misogyny. So most of you should know by now that misogyny means or refers to a dislike or maybe an innate dislike towards women or hatred of women is also displayed throughout the drama. So primarily focusing on women's honesty and dishonesty about who they are. Right. So, in all cases, the characters also who display these prejudices seek to control and define another person or group who intimidates them. So, what ultimately intimidates them is Othello, the black man, coming in. He becomes the general of the mostly white Venetian society, and then also women, are they honest or dishonesty when it comes to certain aspects of their womanhood. So prejudice is used to identify outsiders and insiders and to place yourself within a dominant group. So it's the in group and the out group. And obviously, in the society, um, Othello is seen as an outsider, and the white purebreds of the Venetian society is obviously the insiders. The same way this applies to women also in the drama, where women are seen as outsiders and men are seen as insiders. Okay. An example of this is when Othello concludes his suicide speech. So after Othello kills his wife, Desdemona, for seemingly being unfaithful, right? He has in conclusion of the play, he uses religious prejudice against Muslims to cement his place within the mainstream Christian Venetian society. Okay. So here we have another one, and this is very popular because I think we find it in Hamlet, we find it in the picture of Dorian Gray, we also find it in the Life of Pi, Hamlet, and it is the theme of appearance versus reality. So the tragedy of Othello centers on the ability of Iago to mislead the other characters by encouraging them to misinterpret what they see. Okay, so in other words, Iago is a master puppeteer, okay, and he sort of puts things in some of the characters' heads and minds, and so they misinterpret innocent moments among between each other. Okay, so Othello himself is susceptible to Iago's ploys because he is honest and straightforward. So we need to understand that Othello is simply a a man with a low self-esteem, right? Um, he's honest, right? And he's quite trusting also, which makes him to a very large degree a naive person, right? Because Iago is able to use these character traits against him. Okay. An example of this is when Iago says, the Moor is of free and open nature. And this is an example of Iago manipulating um, Othello. The Moor is of free and open nature, that thinks men honest, that but seem to be so, as tenderly be led by the nose, as asses are. Okay, in this case, asses are referred to donkeys. Okay, so this quote from the drama highlights Iago's ability to play on Othello's honesty or honest nature. So, the numerous examples of unreliable reality is through the language of the play, which time and again refers to dreams, trances, and visions, and constantly highlighting this theme of appearance versus reality. So, Shakespeare extends this theme by including the art of playwriting and acting, and he does this by incorporating Iago's soliloquies, etc. Okay. Then appearance versus reality continued. Iago creates scenes within scenes, right? By setting up encounters between two characters and putting a third in the position of a spectator. A good example of this is when he has Othello watch Michael Cassio, and Desdemona speak, and he has Othello watch him speak with Cassio about Bianca. Okay, so in other words, what Iago is doing here, he has Othello watching Cassio and Desdemona, and he has Othello watch him speak with Cassio and Bianca at the same time. So in other words, he is trying to get Othello to misinterpret the interactions between Cassio and the two female characters, which are Desdemona and Bianca. Okay, so by doing this, Iago manipulates Othello so that he sees the appearance Iago wants him to see rather than the reality of what is happening, making Iago ultimately the director, right? Again, puppet master, director of the play. Iago also addresses the audience through his many soliloquies, and learners need to familiarize themselves with the soliloquies within the play. Okay, I think Hamlet has like something like six soliloquies, and soliloquies is basically what we refer to as one side. So, in other words, it's the character addressing the audience. Okay, that is what or an aside where the character is alone on stage and he is addressing the audience. Okay, so or you can, in simpler terms, thinking out loud. Okay, so Shakespeare draws attention to the way that a playwright and actors create an appearance on stage that tricks the audience into seeing something other than the reality of what is actually happening. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the next themes, part two. Okay. Okay. So here we have, this is the third theme in the novel. I'm sorry, in the drama, and it is jealousy. Okay. So jealousy is closely associated with the theme of appearance versus reality. An example of jealousy in the drama or play is when Othello demands that Iago provide ocular proof of Desdemona's infidelity. Okay, so in other words, Othello wants to see visual evidence. He wants to see hard evidence that his wife is being unfaithful to him. Right. So Othello's jealousy impedes his ability to distinguish between reality and appearance. So the ocular evidence, right, that Iago does present to Othello is obviously the handkerchief, right? And this handkerchief is a symbol of Othello's love for Desdemona, right? And it's the handkerchief was passed down from Othello's mother, okay, and Othello gave it to Desdemona. So that is the ocular proof that Iago uses, to prove Desdemona's infidelity. So when Othello is overcome by jealousy, he becomes beast-like, falling into an epileptic fit that robs him of his ability to speak intelligibly. In other words, he becomes enraged. He, he sort of what they talk to term as beast-like, and he loses his ability to think straight, right? So intelligibly, his ability to think straight and to speak properly. So both Rodrigo and Iago acts to destroy Othello out of jealousy, leading to disastrous consequences. I think you should all remember that Rodrigo, yes, he's a minor character, but he's also in cahoots with Iago because he is also in love with Desdemona, and he feels that he is more deserving of Desdemona given the society, due to societal norms. Okay, so he assists. So Rodrigo then assists Iago to destroy Othello, right? Make it by using the theme of jealousy. And then we have manhood and honor, right? So in this era, right, manhood was associated with honor. Okay, so in other words, if you were an honorable man, right, that would give you higher status in your society. Your manhood was also judged by the type of woman that you have on your side as a wife. Okay, so throughout the play, the male figures seek to assert and protect their manhood and honor. So you'll see that when Desdemona seemingly is accused of infidelity, um, Othello feels like he has lost his manhood and honor. Okay, so ultimately, being the general of the Venetian army, if his wife was infidel, or if his wife was unfaithful towards him, it would obviously then affect him as a man. So Othello has attained political power through his military might. So in other words, he's a formidable um, man on the during war. And when Iago gets Cassio drunk and causes him to humiliate himself, this indicates the importance of reputation, honor. Okay, so reputation, honor, manhood. So Cassio asserts that reputation is all that makes you human. Okay, and when Iago gets Cassio drunk and Cassio has a whole fallout in the street, Cassio feels that he has lost his honor as a man, right? Because his reputation is all that makes him human. So, an example of that, I've lost my immortal part of myself, and what remains is bestial. Iago also asserts that reputation is more valuable than anything in the world. Good name in man and woman is the immediate jewel of their soul. So, in other words, if you maintain a good reputation, right, you will always be honorable and you will be a jewel of society. Okay, so men build their honor through military exploits. The primary means by which men define their honor when not in war is their ability to command the faithfulness of their women. Okay, so like in the previous slide, I said that when Othello felt that Desdemona was unfaithful to him, he sort of lost his honor as a man. So Brabantio's honor is called into question when he is unable to control the romantic impulses of his daughter Desdemona. Because Desdemona eloped with Othello and she never asked her father's blessing initially to marry Othello, right? But why did she do that? Okay, so that's one of the questions we need to ask also. Would their marriage have been acceptable in the era that they were a part of? So Othello is driven to question his own manhood when Iago makes him doubt whether he has power over his wife. So Othello is driven to question his own manhood, right? When Iago puts these ideas of Desdemona's infidelity and then creates the doubt in his mind, and he's also sort of he's questioning his own honor as a man. An example of Othello questioning his manhood is when he says, "A horned man's a monster and a beast." Okay? He is simply saying that to lose control of your woman is to lose everything that makes him human. Okay? So that is again manhood and honor, and his inability to control his wife, right? Sort of makes him weak. He sees himself as a vulnerable man who has lost his honor. Without the honor, Othello sees himself in the same terms as the previous characters do as the animal. Okay. Then we have womanhood and sexuality. So there are two contrasting images of womanhood that dominate the play. Okay, so one of them are reflected through Desdemona, and the other one is reflected through Bianca. So Desdemona is seen as the virtuous and loyal wife, right? uh, to Othello. And then we have the promiscuous woman embodied to a certain extent by Bianca. Okay, so if you have a look at the minor themes, what type of woman was minor character? Sorry, you'll note the type of woman that Bianca was. So, however, these different ways of describing women do not actually apply to real women. So, in other words, there are male fantasies imposed on women, ideals that men want women to fulfill, and the roles that women purposely play for men. So, in other words, um, they are the two identities of women, right? And the ability of women to sort of play on the man's ideal of what a woman should be within that era of time. Okay, so an example of this is when Desdemona often describes her devotion to Othello. She is playing the role of devoted and virtuous wife. Okay, and that is obviously what Othello would have expected in that time. Okay, then we have again womanhood and sexuality continued. Here we have Emilia, right? Emilia is Desdemona's maid, okay, chambermaid. So in other words, she looks after Desdemona, she dresses Desdemona, she bathes Desdemona, etc. Right? So she sort of knows all Desdemona's whereabouts, where she is, what she's doing, with who she's doing it. Okay. So yeah, Emilia, which is Iago's wife, also complicates the simple contract between the virtuous wife and the unvirtuous woman. Okay. So what makes her virtuous and what makes a woman unvirtuous is depicted in Emilia's character. So Emilia wants to please Iago and steal Desdemona's handkerchief, knowing that he wants it desperately. Right? So there we see an example of a virtuous wife. Right? She wants to please her husband, and therefore she steals um, Desdemona's handkerchief. Right? The handkerchief that was gifted to Desdemona by Othello. Okay, as a symbol of his love and devotion for her. Then, however, she tells Desdemona that she believes many women, including herself, would cheat on their husbands under certain circumstances. So Emilia never cheats, right? And she's never unfaithful to Iago, nor is Desdemona ever unfaithful to Othello. Okay. So Emilia affirms her independent virtue by defending Desdemona's virtue and revealing Iago's crime in the process. So they will see in the end when Emilia finds um, Amelia affirming her independent virtue is basically seen as the unvirtuous wife. Okay, so in other words, she's not wanting to please her husband, but rather she is defining her independence, right? When she defends Desdemona, right, and Desdemona's innocence, and and she does this when she reveals Iago's crime, right? And what is the crime? By taking the handkerchief from her and using it as ocular proof or proof of Desdemona's illness. So, womanhood in Othello is often defined by men in terms of pure virtue or voracious and deceptive sexuality. So, in other words, women have the ability to deceive the men in the society. And this is the way women are viewed in that time. Okay, so the play proves that women in general are far more complex than what men define them as. So, in other words, women are not just the plain and simple. So there's this gray area, right? And this is portrayed in Emilia's character throughout the novel, throughout the drama, sorry, and even Bianca. Okay. And I think that is the wrap for today. So next week we'll be looking at the symbols in Othello, And then thereafter, we'll maybe touch on some questions, inshallah. I hope you've got some more insight into the themes and the characters. Remember, learners need to understand this and they need to understand it well in order to make connections to write a good literature essay. So that's a wrap from me for today. Shukran everybody for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Amir?
MashaAllah, we say Shukran Jazakallah Khair wa Alaikum Salam wa Rahmatullah to Ms. Ni-shaat Dastagir, who is an English educator at the Mitchells Plain High School, who so beautifully conducted today's session. And that, of course, was dedicated to all of our matriculant students who are preparing for the upcoming NSC examinations, where Ms. Dastagir went through content for English Paper 2, focusing specifically on Othello and the character list as well. We'd like to thank the esteemed Ms. Ni-shaat Dastagir for beautifully conducting today's session, and I know that all of the matriculants out there have greatly benefited from today's session. As always, beloved matriculants and all those who have tuned into the Voice of the Cape's YouTube and Facebook page, please forward and share this link with all of those who are preparing for the upcoming matric examinations, inshallah, to ensure that you are adequately prepared to take on your English paper 2, inshallah. From our side, on behalf of the Voice of the Cape, we thank you, Ms. Ni-shaat Dastagir, for beautifully conducting today's session. And as a reminder, of course, this is the Voice of the Cape's online matric revision program for the year 2024, and it's proudly being sponsored by the Two Oceans Graduate Institute, which is an accredited and an online platform, rather an accredited online platform where you can become a primary school or a high school teacher by studying in the privacy of your own home. If you'd like to find out more information about them, you may contact them on the number 021 829 7015, or you may visit their website www.togi.ac.za. As a reminder, once again, please forward and share this like this page on the Voice of the Cape's YouTube and Facebook page. And I hope that all of the matriculants preparing for your upcoming examinations will have all the success and ease ahead. And from our side, we say shukran, jazakallah khair, and bait ramakasi. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.